Hello there and welcome back to another review. So how many of you remember the film Virtuosity? How many of you out there remember this film? Any of you? A couple of you? Does anybody remember this movie? Now this film and Lawnmower Man, both by Brett Leonard, I always remember this film and Lawnmower Man from the 90s, largely due to the fact that I was a huge gamer, still game, nowhere near as much as I used to. I'm still very much a gamer, but I don't game nowhere near as much as I used to. I was a huge gamer at the time, and both films had like visual effects and computer imagery that was so of the time. I mean, when you talk about 90s films, like it's not an iconic 90s film, make no mistake about that, but there's something about Virtuosity that does channel in to that 90s I won't say gaming culture, but like sort of that where technology was at the time and the whole idea of like computers and things like that. Imagine the same way sort of Tron was back in the early 80s. I will be reviewing Lawnmower Man soon, by the way. I always remember and have fond memories of this movie. I'm sure both movies sort of slipped a lot of people but both movies were very much a product of the time and that 90s technology, as I mentioned, that was happening. Starring Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. Have to remember this was made in 1995, so was before Crowe had his first big breakout role with sort of like LA Confidential and, as we all know, later on Gladiator and movies like that. I think the only film I remember seeing in him when I saw this movie was Sam Raimi's Quick and the Dead. I think that may have been the only other film I'd seen him in at that point. So it's very early on in sort of Russell Crowe's career. Like with all the films, I do try and mix things up a bit on my channel, as this is a film I remember from growing up. It always sticks with me, and you say this to some people now, and it's like, have you ever seen Virtuosity? And they've never even heard of it. It's not, I'll say it's not necessarily a classic movie, but it's definitely a movie of the time, which I think needs to be acknowledged. Of course, the movie isn't perfect, but it really does try and expand on that idea of, like I mentioned, like a computer game or virus or VR technology within a movie. Like I say, look at films like this, Tron, Hackers, Total Recall, to name but a few, all sort of had that whole VR sort of computer, idea running through it. Although the film isn't great, I mean, largely it's downright silly. It's downright daft, this movie, make no mistake about it. It is a daft, silly movie. It's, as I say, it's downright, but it is a film I always remember, so we'll be getting into it today. In a way, it was the sort of film that spoke to gamers a bit. When I mentioned I'm a gamer, like sort of was a heavy gamer back in the day. I was young. I had Nintendo and Mega Drive and things like this, but I think this was a film that was very much sort of trying to make it cool for the kids, if you know what I mean. The idea of, like I say, a rogue computer program and comes into the real world. It spoke to an audience outside of what was going on in mainstream films. I mean, this was the year we had Mortal Kombat movie too. I think The Net with Sandra Bullock was also that year. So it became very much the vogue in thing to do, to have movies with like technology in them. The Net, yeah. I'll have to watch that movie again, actually. I've not seen that for a long time. Like I say, with technology in them, with like VR, with the notion of a virus, computers being a huge part of the film's narrative, and Virtuosity, though at its core it's simple, good guy trying to catch a bad guy, it does have that 90s gaming techno culture sort of running through it. So the film starts with a song by Black Grape playing. We meet Denzel and his partner in this like computer program, wearing what I can only describe as sort of leftovers from sort of Eddie Murphy's Raw comedy show. And they're looking for Russell Crowe, or Sid as he is known in this movie, which stands for sadistic, intelligent and dangerous. That's one thing you'll probably remember most from this movie, where just what Sid stands for. So they trace him to like this Japanese restaurant where of course a gunfight ensues. Now what is clever is, in our eyes, we think that this is the universe where the film is set. Like you think initially they're just after this guy, this is where the film is set, and this is where the film is quite clever. As I mentioned, they are in a computer game, like in a program. where we see Denzel and his partner Donovan in the real world and having like a meltdown in this machine they're sort of in. Donovan dies. So the idea is they're using this like machine and VR to train law enforcement people eventually, and are basically using convicts at this moment to sort of find the glitches. It's sort of like a training program. Rather than actually do actual training, they think let's just put them in VR machines, but they're using convicts to sort of sort out and weed out, like sort of find the glitches. See, I thought that was quite cool. You think Denzel was an upright cop, but it turns out he's actually in prison. So that was quite an interesting idea. The fact that you initially start, you think, oh, he's a cop in a very snazzy uniform, but it turns out he's not a cop. He's actually in prison. He's a convict. He plays Barnes in this, by the way. So the big boss woman of the company is not happy with the results. So out of VR and back at the prison, this racist guy wants to kill him for taking Donovan. Right, Donovan died on the machine, and this guy comes back. Denzel comes back, and this racist guy wants to like have a go at him, like kill him for what happened to Donovan. That's like, how on earth would he know that? How would he know what happened to Donovan? Barnes has only just got back to prison. He's only just got out of the VR like literally about 20 minutes ago, and he already knows what's happened to Donovan. I have no idea. How would he know it so fast? Like I say, Barnes only left the facility, like the training VR facility, like a short while ago. Had no idea how we would know that. Oh, just so you know, Barnes has like a metallic left arm as well. Just throw that in there as well. He's got like a metallic left arm. So Denzel obviously beats the guy, and Sid 6.7 in the program has become pretty much independent and he's like a real virtual killing machine. Barnes meets with a psychologist played by Kelly Lynch as Madison Carter, and of course Barnes has lost his wife and daughter, and at this point we don't know how yet. So Lyndon Meyer, sort of the guy who created Sid, gets this other employee to help bring Sid into the real world, though this guy thinks he's doing it for this sexy hot lady program, Sheila 3.2. Lot of computer jargon and tech talk here that you really don't need to worry about. There's a lot of tech talk, computer jargon thrown in and around sort of these opening scenes here and there, but you don't really need to pay too much attention to that. Really doesn't matter. And he uses like this snake to demonstrate his point, and basically that he can just make a computer program real. That's all you need to know. This guy can make a computer program real. Got it? Good. So then we have like this naked Russell Crowe hatching from like this blue egg thing. He kills Riley, the guy that was helping Lyndon Meyer, and can regenerate himself and his limbs if he uses glass. So it's the usual stuff. Barnes gets tasked with bringing him in, and if it does go well, he'll get a pardon. He's tagged so the powers that be can keep an eye on him. So Barnes has a haircut. Carter wants to go along with him. So right away, they go to this crime scene. Like literally, as soon as they leave the facility, they go right to this random crime scene, like the very next shot. They don't plan the next move. They don't, right, what's our first lead? Where are we going? What are we doing? They just go straight to this crime scene. So this couple have been murdered there, and she's like, it's Sid, as some of the glasses, right? Like, some of the glass has a hole in it, and she's like, oh, that's Sid. It could not be funny, but potentially it could be anybody. Just because some of the glass is smashed. I know like the whole idea is like he can use glass to sort of regenerate, but you know, it may not be. But yeah, she just jumps to that, you know, random killing, you spot some missing glass, but it must be Sid. So Lyndon Meyer, the creator, has gone into hiding. He's staying in some like crappy hotel room or motel at this point. Not sure really what his main plan was either. Like the guy who created Sid, you know, other than to see what Sid can do. But he's in a suit at the start of the movie. He's all high-powered businessman type, and he just because he's let Sid out into the real world. He's now slumming it in like a vest, his worst trousers in this like sort of crappy motel. What his plan is and his end game is, I have no idea. I guess he just wants to see what his creation can do or something along them lines. So after checking the random computer, Barnes and Carter discovered that Sid has loads of past serial killer programs into him somehow. Like he's got their sort of psyche in his head. Like that's sort of what is channeling Sid. One of them is Matthew Grimes, who just so happened to be the one responsible for killing Barnes' family. So you knew that the killer of our lead's family, like, was gonna. This Russell Crowe's got sort of his DNA or his brain or something, like I say, psyche in his head. Sid holds up some people in a nightclub, and Barnes meets Carter's daughter. So Sid holds all these people hostage in the club, and after doing like a music number, Denzel comes up the elevator and just starts blasting away at Sid, right? He's got no like special weapons to take him down. He's just basically just opens fire on him. Who then goes to escape via a cop car and is pursued by Barnes at the same time he's eating glass so he can sort of heal. And what is a shame is as the film goes on, you sort of forget. It starts off with the whole computer VR technology kind of thing, but what is a shame is as the film progresses and it goes along, you completely forget that he's a computer program. Like, that just goes out the window. He may as well not be a computer program. You just sort of forget, like, he's meant to be this ultimate bad dude because he doesn't, but he doesn't do anything amazing or out of this world. He's just a maniac with a gun. That's the only, it could be anybody. Like, Russell Crowe could be playing anybody. He's a virus for the first 25 minutes, like a bad program for the first 25 minutes. Once he's in the real world, he's just a maniac with a gun. That's all he is. There's nothing that sort of differentiates, like, what, because he's a computer program, okay, he can re-heal, like, with glass and things like that, but there's nothing really that sets him apart from sort of other bystanders and other people. As I say, he's just a guy with a gun. And they really big Sid up at the start, but in the real world, he's just a madman, like I say, just running around. Obviously, at the same time, where Russell was just still trying to, like Russell Crowe, the actor, was still trying to make his mark. So I think at this point in his career, he'd basically just be giving any film a go. I think, just why not? For some reason, he knows Carter when he's talking to them over the radio, and also for some reason, Denzel has a humongous shotgun in his car, and after the chase, Sid gets away. So Sid goes into this electronics store and proceeds to break a guy's neck who changed the station from what Sid was watching. Sid likes big audiences is the thing. He wants a big audience and goes to take over this like sports arena where he launches this big guy down from a top row, but also gets his hands blown off. And he does, like I said, where he doesn't do anything out of the ordinary. He does like a backwards somersault here just for kicks. And you have to love when Denzel is chasing him at this sports auditorium. People are still cheering at what is happening in the ring, like what they've come to see. Like, they're totally ignoring the fact of what's happening around them. They're all still fixated and just watching the event. They've obviously paid good money for these leads tickets. They're not going to be easily distracted no matter what is going on. So I say that they're just focused on what's happening in the ring. That the fact a gun has been fired and someone has been launched from like the top row of this arena is neither here nor there for these people. And you have to love as well. They put Sid in a Joker-esque kind of purple suit, like Joker Batman. He's got like a whole purple suit thing going on. So Sid escapes via train where Denzel appears to shoot a hostage. Sid has, although he claims he missed and didn't kill her. Billy, his chief, locks him up, and turns out the lady was shot from the back and not the front, so it couldn't have been Barnes. And it's that old age thing. Why is Barnes the only man that can bring this guy in, right? Surely it would have made much more sense, much more logical sense to send as many as your men as possible to go after and get Sid. And it's like, no, we'll just task Barnes with it. Like, we'll just let Barnes get on with it. He's the only man who can. We have like this virtual serial killer on the loose. Let's just send one man after him. Not, I don't know, everyone on the force. Like, why him? Why Barnes? All he does is chase him with a gun. All Russell Crowe does is threaten people with a gun. It's like, that's all that happens. Never really explained that other than Grimes is in his psyche who killed his family, So we then get a flashback of his wife and daughter getting blown up and how he lost his arm. And during that conversation, he shot 2 news reporters, hence why he's been sent to prison. So they do fill in a bit of a backstory with Barnes explaining why he was in prison. What is funny about this flashback, this scene where you see what happened, is that this is probably a better scene, a more well staged action than any other scene in the movie, because it had a lot of the action scenes in this movie are by the numbers. And like I said at the start of the review, the film isn't perfect. It's silly. It's stupid. It's not even that good. But it's very much a film of the time. And watching it again recently, I quite enjoyed. When I first saw it back in the day, I loved this movie. I thought it was quite cool. But watching it again now, in hindsight, watching it again recently, you look at it, it's like, did I really like that as much as I think I did? Let's say, but that scene when we get the flashback, it's probably a better, well-staged, better action scene than the rest of the movie up to this point. After Barnes is arrested, Sid frees him from his prison transport, kills the guard, and warns him that the tracking device that is inside him also basically contains a toxin. All the while, Lindenmayer still just chilling in his vest, watching the chaos unfold. So Sid takes over a television studio, which, by the way, he has time to make his own name tag as well. Like, Sid's got his own name tag going on, where he takes one of the uniforms. All the while, he's made time to go up and kidnap Carter's daughter. He's done that as well. As I say, at this point, you just forget he's a computer program. That's obsolete. That's gone out the window. He's just a guy that's taken people hostage inside a television studio and has one gun and never runs out of ammo for some reason. A bit like a John Woo movie. He just never, ever runs out of ammo. So Barnes gets in, they pull the phone lines and starts chasing Sid again. Police helicopter starts shooting at Barnes, not even worried about Sid when on the top of the studio. It's like, nope, let's go for Barnes, because Barnes has sort of been apprehended as well, because they think he shot a hostage and things like this. But what makes it life is he's sort of chasing Sid, but they're shooting at Barnes instead. Barnes does like a finishing move from a rope, which sends Sid flying through a glass window, which messes him up, even though he starts to grow his limbs back. Not before, like, Parker Barnes punches him through the back of the head and pulls his chip out. I will say the film does throw you a curveball at the end, where we replay the scene again with Denzel getting thrown off the building and like sort of dying. You are like, what the hell is going on? Like, you see the same thing again, like with a different outcome, and you're like, say, sort of what the hell is it? Turns out they have put Sid's chip back in the VR machine. So Sid, like, you think Denzel sort of dies already, or like Sid wins. So basically, they put Sid's chip back in the VR machine, so Sid will still think he is reality in the real world, so they can get a location on Carter's daughter, who he made time to go and kidnap. I'm probably not explaining it that clearly, but basically what they does is he takes out Sid's chip. You see the scene again, but you find out that when you watch it again, it's actually VR. Carter kills Lindenmayer, and you have to love how for some reason she knows like how to operate all the equipment and machines, even though her job is a psychologist. Once they get her daughter's location, we have this whole bomb defusal scene where Barnes uses like a cable from his mechanical arm to sort of disarm the bomb, which the film probably didn't need. We probably didn't need a whole bomb defusal scene at the end, and like his metallic arm really doesn't. Yeah, he's got a metallic arm, whatever. But yeah, so this whole bomb diffuser scene, it seems pretty much just thrown in at the end. It really does seem a bit like it's just thrown in there just for something extra to put on the end of the movie. Just finding the daughter would have been a nice ending. It just seemed a bit tagged on. So they free her and save her, and ends with Barnes throwing Sid's chip off the building as hard as he can, which, to be fair, could have landed on or injured anyone on the streets below. It's like this great big, quite heavy object, and he just launches it off this building, which could have easily like whacked somebody on the head or like hit a small child. Barnes ruthless with the way he just throws this chip. But luckily, it gets run over by a car. So that's sort of the end of Virtuosity, and like I mentioned, it's not a great movie. I'm not sitting here saying make sure to go and check out Virtuosity. It's a must-see. You must go and check out this movie. Like, no matter what you do, make sure you see this movie. It's not great. It's not the best film in the world. Like this movie for the first 40 minutes of this film, with like I say, the VR villain, but it worked. You think, oh, it's interesting, but it sort of gets dropped, and they sort of forget what Russell Crowe is, and it just becomes, unfortunately, a by the numbers, sort of action, let's get the bad guy thriller, but a film very much of the time that I always remember, and just watching it again recently, I hadn't seen it again for a few years, and it, like I say, doesn't necessarily hold up, but you get quite an interesting performance here from Russell Crowe, and one of his sort of early Hollywood roles, sort of there's this mad villain. And I'd say, I think you really get the impression that he was just giving anything a go at this point, just trying to see where he could make his mark in Hollywood, but a very interesting film, not the kind of film you'd expect sort of Denzel Washington to necessarily be in. From the same director, though, I will be reviewing Lawnmower Man very soon, which I think is even more so than this, very much clued into that 90's gaming and VR aesthetic. But if you have seen Virtuosity, let me know what you think of it. If it's a film you've seen or have never seen, just let me know, and let me know what you think of the film. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.